ICE has been given directives that they do not need a judicial warrant to go into homes.
Just got word that they can legally enter into your home without no warrant,
Officers are now trying to infiltrate neighborhood groups in order to gain access to children. This is coming directly from sources on.
ICE took a 5-year-old and held them as bait to lure relatives.
So tomorrow's January 23rd, and I talked about it before. It's the community coming together downtown Minneapolis to ask the visitors to leave us alone nicely. And the biggest thing is it's going to be negative 20 degrees. It's going to just feel horrible out. So I plan to also have a backpack full of supplies such as heat warmers, water bottles, extra gloves, extra just face coverings, because even just breathing in that type of air, it doesn't feel good at all. So if you do go out there, just be very careful and just be bundled up as best as possible. But the biggest thing is watching everyone come together from different states and countries to support has been one of the most amazing things I've seen. And of course, growing up, I heard the stories of the generations of the past fighting and doing things. So watching it myself and just being even a part of it in the little way I am has just been amazing to just witness. So I think anyone and everyone who's just even taken time to just leave a comment, who's just shared the video and everything, I just find it so amazing just watching so many people of different states and countries just come together. And it's one of the things that I do really appreciate, people reaching out. Like, I have someone who's sending out supplies from a different state, and it's just so amazing to see how much people are trying their best to help out. So if you go out, just be very much careful, bundled up and everything. And if you're just watching from home, just keep up to date with everything going on.
ICE officers are now trying to infiltrate neighborhood groups in order to gain access to children. This is coming directly from sources on the ground here in Minneapolis. I have the details of at least one incident here, and they're pretty disturbing. And it illustrates exactly why so many people are afraid to leave their homes and even send their children to school. Best case scenario, their goal is, as we've seen before, to use the children to lure out their parents so that the officers can detain them. As many of you know, one of my goals is to document some of the more hyper local organizing that's happening, as well as to allocate some funding that's already been secured to some of these less official efforts. So in case you're unaware, there is a lot of local direct organizing happening right now, especially with regards to individuals who are afraid of leaving their homes or have family members who are afraid of leaving their homes because they might be targeted. Neighbors and community members, parents at schools have been organizing amongst themselves to arrange things like children pick up and drop off to and from school. Some are delivering school materials back and forth, and some schools themselves are even setting up remote learning again. Teachers are getting very involved in setting up systems to protect their students, and parents are getting involved in protecting the teachers. It is direct community organizing at its best. Now, I want to preface this by saying I have some experience in documenting clandestine organizing, and in order to do so safely, one has to be incredibly careful about what sorts of things they're capturing and sharing, etc. And if you are someone who is consenting for these activities to be documented, make sure that the person you're allowing to do so is in fact trustworthy and can be verified as being trustworthy by third parties. They should absolutely be willing to talk to you about what you are and aren't comfortable with showing and sharing, and respect all of those boundaries. People want to help. They just don't always know how to do so safely. So this is what happened. At a local Minneapolis school, there were team members on the ground that are part of one of these direct action organizations. The team leaders have shared that an individual who was dressed in plain clothes and was later confirmed to be driving an ICE vehicle approached two school patrol members. He had a whistle around his neck and implied that he was either a journalist or an organizer for Indivisible. He said something about wanting to get photos or videos about what they were doing, and then later interacted with staff on site very closely. He was chatting with the staff while they were assisting with the school dismissal process and asking several questions, which were not answered, about the specifics of student transportation. After that, he went back to the patrol leads, or the organization's on-site team leaders, and asked if they were doing plate checks. He said something about making sure that they were on the same team, and after the leads were able to dismiss him, he got into a vehicle and drove away. The advice that's now being reinforced with patrols is not to speak to anyone who approaches asking for information. Don't let them take your photo or video. If something feels off, report it so other patrollers can come as backup. And if someone is insistent with questions, direct them to the lead. So basically, the parties involved handled this correctly, but they want everyone to know that this is in fact happening. ICE, of course, can and likely has been taking photos and videos of these sorts of volunteers from afar. Many of them have probably been followed and quite possibly even identified. And of course, they're doing nothing illegal. ICE most likely already knows many of the homes that these children are going to. And despite their very recent assertions to the contrary, ICE cannot enter a home without a judicial warrant, which is why I think this man's goal was to physically gain access to the children and perhaps have them in his custody at one point, specifically to lure said parents out. Now, some people may be confused as to why I still think that it's important to document some of these things in a safe manner, which can mean, depending on the situation, hiding identifying information or locations, maybe operational specifics. But the reason I think it's important is that the unfortunate truth about vulnerable populations being forced to go into hiding is that that makes it far more easy for their pain, their experiences, their fear to be hidden from public view. And it's easier to dismiss words on a page than it is to dismiss actual documentation. These people deserve to have their stories told while they're unfolding. And in addition to that, behavior is contagious. There are people across the country whose neighbors are equally as scared and vulnerable, who may not have any idea on how they can actually help. Showing people how easy it can be to make a tangible difference in their neighbors' or communities' lives can help that behavior and those tactics spread. And lastly, because as much as their goal is to fracture our communities, I think it's incredibly important to show that their tactics only make us strong.
Sending ICE to Philadelphia is basically admitting you have a death wish. Like, yes, ICE has been active in this area. They've been active in Philly and over here in Trenton, where I'm at and whatnot. But sending ICE on the level that's been happening in Minnesota, Minneapolis, to Philadelphia, you just want to die. You would have to do the Insurrection Act. And Philadelphia is just itching for that shit to happen. The Battle of Philadelphia was part of the Revolutionary War, and the Brits lost that. Like, just fighting is in Philly's vein. Remember when George Floyd was murdered? Well, this was the day later. By 10, 11 a.m., they were torching cop cars. This is how it looked from the distance. This was the skyline. I took this all on the Benjamin Franklin Bridge on foot. Like, this image right here pretty much encapsulates the mentality of Philadelphia and what that night was like. And I was actually there for that. Unfortunately, I deleted like half the stuff I had on accident, complete accident, made a rookie mistake. When I say it got even more chaotic that night, it did. Like, some of the National Guard came out, some big chubby fat boys that looked like they had like M249s, and niggas did not care. They was roasting them, making fun of them. You had the cops posted up on Broad Street and whatnot. Like, almost all that was blocked off. And some way, somehow, this black Challenger comes out of nowhere, just peels around the corner. Niggas hit a rollback donut in front of the cops, smoked that shit up, and peeled out. It was a wild night. There was like Molotovs that some people threw in. It was when the sheriff said, "You don't want this smoke," she wasn't saying that to sound tough. She was saying that to keep the peace. Because if it was a wild night amongst Philadelphians and the police, because the police, represent the structure that killed George Floyd, because Philadelphia, we have issues with our police as well, hence why the Rizzo statue was absolutely vandalized, because Frank Rizzo was a terrible person. How do you think Philadelphians are going to act when outsiders, on the behest of a Donald Trump, start fucking shit up, or think they are? If you do some Renee Good shit at that death wish turns into a death trap. We have some long streets with not many exits. Just saying.
This video was posted 4 hours ago on the Minnesota subreddit, and anyone in Minnesota right now, I need you to know what this could possibly do to you. Not because I'm trying to get you to stop protesting, nothing like that, but you need to know the dangers. For people with uteruses in this space, this kind of agent has been used in Portland, apparently. There are some complications. 54.5% of menstruating individuals in a study of 2,200 people exposed in Portland found that half reported abnormal menstrual cycles following exposure. 83% had adverse health outcomes and just at least reported one adverse reproductive outcome. 2.6 times risk factor. Individuals who were exposed to these agents for 5 days or more were 2.6 times more likely to experience adverse reproductive health outcomes compared to those with less exposure. And 69% of people exposed to this with uteruses reported intense uterine cramping, and 55 reported early menstrual bleeding. From the research that I'm seeing, this is produced by Safariland, and it is a military-style maximum HC smoke grenade. It discharges smoke for 105 to 150 seconds. It's considered an area denial agent, so it's supposed to get you out of the space. It physically overwhelms you, and the chemicals that are in it are heavier than air, so it sinks to the ground and stays there. The chemical mixture is hexachloroethane, HC, zinc oxide, and aluminum. When it's ignited, it releases zinc chlorine smoke. Hexachloroethane is a suspected carcinogenic, to be. The product warnings on this company's website for their agents lists lead salts, methylene chloride, and hexavalent chromium in the pyrotechnic mix. And the thing that causes it to be green is solvent yellow 33, which apparently, when used in tandem with the other agents, has possible mutagenic effects, so it can damage your DNA. Just so you're aware, causing mass infertility among minority groups is a form of genocide, and they are in minority prevalent communities in Minneapolis right now. This specific incident happened at 25th and Bryant. If you see any of these canisters anywhere, you need to make sure they stay away from water sources. Safariland has removed all of their safety data sheets, but they are in archive and I can provide them. I'm probably going to put them in my bio, to be honest. Do not throw it in a normal trash can. This is not normal house trash. There is a chance it's a different chemical, and in that case, it still provides toxicity, reproductive toxicity to people with uteruses, as well as reproductive toxicity for people with testes, and developmental issues for children. If you are experiencing any adverse health effects, you need to go to a hospital, not because you're dying, but because they need to document your symptoms. We know what happened to the people in Portland. We need to know what's happening to you now. And if you see the gas, I know it's really hard, but you need to try and stay out of it. Or at least wear one of those big ass masks. If your eyes are exposed and you wear contacts, you need to take your contacts out and dispose of them after you're out of this space. And no matter what, if your eyes are exposed, you need to wash them with water for multiple minutes after exposure. And stay in fresh air, as fresh of air as you can get. It has multiple dispersal points, so if you see it, know that it's going to be blowing smoke from multiple different spots, not just one. So you have to cover it with a bucket. Dump water on it apparently really helps. You can cover it with earth. Carbon dioxide and dry chemicals also work. If it reaches any physical items, you need to move and let it burn because you're not going to get it done. If it causes a fire, it's toxic and you need to get out of the way. If somehow you accidentally get it in your mouth and swallow it, you need to call 911. Once again, Safariland removed all of their safety sheets on this, and I can't even get to the data center without me getting Safari can't open this page. So do with this information what you will. Please be careful and let me know if you have any questions. And check my bio for the safety sheet.
Watch what just happened to Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavina at a speedway in Minneapolis.
On this property at all. We do not support ICE. Get off our property. Bye. Bye. Bye.
This is what democracy looks like.
This is incredibly important. The Associated Press is now reporting that ICE has been given directives that they do not need a judicial warrant to go into homes. This is a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. They're violating the Constitution in every way possible. I will put the link in the comments. Please go read this article.
Breaking news, 3 people have been arrested in connection to the city's church protest in Minneapolis on Sunday. This was a person named William Kelly, Louisa Allen, and Nakima Levy Armstrong, who they say are individuals who allegedly organized the coordinated attack on city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. And they say it's a violation of the FACE Act, which is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which apparently is something that the Trump administration thinks will be appropriate for these guys. A federal magistrate judge has refused to sign the complaint bringing charges against Don Lemon. Not sure if they've refused to sign it for these folks as well, but they decided to go ahead with the arrest, so they may not have had an issue with them. We'll see.
ICE just got word that they can legally enter into your home without no warrant, no signed order from the judge. So now ICE is entering homes without warrants and is getting away with it. They just kidnapped a 5-year-old little boy. The mom cannot find him anywhere. And this happened in Columbia Heights. They used the 5-year-old boy as a fucking pawn or whatever you want to what would you say, just a way to make his mom turn herself into. And on top of all that, Sun Foods and all these grocery stores are completely empty. Nobody's in the aisles. Nobody's in the parking lot. You usually almost crash when you're coming in to pull into a parking spot, how many people are going in and out. And there's nobody. Everybody is so scared in Minnesota. And if you think that's bad, ICE is detaining adults and leaving the babies in the car and in the homes by themselves. There was just a baby who was left in a freezing car for hours, and thank God the baby didn't die. They found this baby after the parents were gone, and they didn't contact nobody to come get this baby or nothing. They just left the baby in the car. Like, please tell me that this is not a civil war we're going through right now. How can ICE just go into our homes? This is Germany. This is literally what Anne Frank talked about.
After Renee Nicole Good was shot, she still had a pulse for 8 minutes, which has now been confirmed by a Minnesota doctor. Many people don't know this, but ICE agents receive basic life-saving training, including CPR. Despite that training, no CPR was administered by ICE agents while Renee Good was still alive. On top of this, a Minnesota physician was on the scene. He identified himself as a doctor and asked to provide aid. According to eyewitness accounts and video, ICE agents refused and told him they had their own medical support. Even though dispatch records show there was a delay before emergency responders were fully engaged. Now, paramedics did not begin life-saving measures immediately after the shooting. Okay, now Renee Good didn't receive CPR till 10 minutes after the shooting occurred. 10 minutes. And video also shows agents standing around Renee Good after the shooting while she laid on the ground. There was time to act, they just chose not to.
What? ICE took a 5-year-old and held them as bait to lure relatives. Well, that's what they do they? Go to the AI platform of your choice. Go to any research tool. Find me examples of law enforcement, okay, using children as bait. Not in some sex trafficking thing, not in some online predator thing. You will not find it. Only ICE does this. Look for me and find examples of any other criminal being described as an illegal. Take a look. Only people who violate immigration law. Why? Because this is part of a toxic culture. And the reason I'm against it is not because of some woke bullshit. I don't care what you say. I'm not about censorship. But there are consequences. And certain speech is more powerful and more poisonous than others. Why illegals? Well, first of all, it just is illogical. You don't do it in any other context. Why? The big brain reason: to dehumanize and create a default to type. It is a version of fundamentalism. It is a version of otherism. It is a way that you demonize people. And I am worried about that in this country because I see it increasingly. There's a ratcheting up of extreme ideas and rhetoric. It leads to a potential fundamentalism. You want to see where that can take you? Look at Iran. Look at what it used to be, and look at how the Ayatollahs came out in there. The second reason is it makes you an asshole. Saying rude things makes you an asshole. Doesn't make you tough.
I want to talk about Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old who was kidnapped by our government yesterday in a suburb of Minneapolis. And on the face of it, all you can say is that this is heart-wrenching and maddening and rage-inducing. And hits, as a parent, of course, it hits every bone in my body, just deep. But as a human being, it's going to hit all of us, And so connected to what I want to talk about right now, which is not just what this reveals about the regime, that they are doing this now, they are kidnapping children in broad daylight, but what it reveals about us as the social movement that is opposing this, in particular for folks on the front lines in Minnesota, but all of us who are working in our different ways to oppose this. Because when you get to this stage, that an oppressive regime is kidnapping children in broad daylight, that's the kind of moment that you could view as, shoot, we've lost. We've protested, we've done everything, we've opposed them, and yet they are still doing this. In fact, they're ratcheting up the level of cruelty. And I'm completely empathetic to why it feels like that. But if you look at the history of social movements, that is actually the opposite of what's true. That regimes stay in power when they can fetishize their violence, fetishize their cruelty, meaning obscure it with this institutional veneer, obscure it with the lies of, we are doing this to protect you, we're doing this to keep you safe. And it's at the moment that they are left without any other moves. The fake smoke and mirrors of, we're only getting violent criminals, or we're only getting bad guys, trust us. They're all really, really bad guys. When that's already been revealed to not be the game here. When all their lies aren't working, they have to give up and just do the cruelty in public. De-fetishize the cruelty. So we just see it, right? This is the violence of the state. This is the violence of what they're doing to us. And the terrible news about being in that moment is that they're going to keep ratcheting up the cruelty. This will not be the last moment that our hearts break. But it's also an important moment to know that they are doing this because we're winning. They're doing this because they have lost public favor. The majority of Americans now are in favor of abolishing ICE. They have no public relations moves to win. All they have is moves attempting to break our hearts, trying to make us stop. But what they don't understand, when you're at this stage, our hearts are so on fire for each other that the opposite is going to be true. The crowds are going to keep rising. We're going to keep being out. And yes, they will keep bringing cruelty down to us, but it's so important to know that while that looks like they're powerful, it actually means that they are weak right now, and they are flailing, and they are out of moves.
My name is Bashir Hussein. I am a 20-year-old U.S. citizen from Minneapolis, Minnesota. On December 10, 2025, during my lunch break, I was violently arrested by federal immigration agents. I repeatedly told the agents that I am a U.S. citizen and I had my ID and passport. Instead, the agents ignored my pleas and forced me to the ground and placed me in a headlock. The injuries and trauma from that day have stayed with me. Since that incident, I have experienced symptoms of PTSD, intense anxiety in public spaces, panic when I hear whistles, sirens, and car horns, trouble sleeping, constant stress, and emotional exhaustion. I have also experienced ongoing physical pain and tension that started after my detention. I no longer feel safe in my community. My family has been affected by this as much as I have. They watch me come home drained and physically hurt. The fear that this could happen again has created constant stress and has changed our lives. I am raising funds to support my recovery, including trauma-informed mental health therapy and counseling, medical care for stress-related symptoms and physical symptoms, basic living and recovery-related expenses while I focus on healing. If you are able to donate, I am very grateful. If not, please consider sharing this page. Thank you.
fucking eat that pussy. Ice out! Ice out! Ice shut down this state! Shut down the state! Up with immigrants! Up with immigrants! Down with children! Get out!
ICE keeps targeting children. This is 5-year-old Liam Ramos.
Officials from his school say he was taken by ICE with his father while in their driveway after just arriving home from his preschool classroom Tuesday.
This preschooler was forcibly taken from the driveway of his home in the suburbs of Minneapolis along with his father, and they are now being held at an ICE detention center thousands and thousands of miles away in Texas.
Why detain a 5-year-old? You can't tell me that this child is going to be classified as a violent criminal.
The school superintendent where Liam goes to school said an ICE agent even led Liam, a 5-year-old, to the front door of his house and directed Liam to knock on the door asking to be let in.
According to them, agents made Liam knock on the door, asking to let them in order to see if anyone else was home.
Essentially using a 5-year-old as bait. Liam's brother arrived home from middle school 20 minutes later to discover that both his brother and his father had been taken by ICE. According to their attorney, both father and son arrived to the U.S. at an official border crossing to seek asylum. They were doing everything they were supposed to be doing. And now they are in Texas, awaiting an untold fate.